Hello and welcome to another Passivlife video, and we have some big news coming from Aptera. Is this good news or is it great news? Oh, hard to tell. But in the recent Aptera video that I think most of you will already have seen, Aptera announced their partnership with US Capital, which is a huge enterprise that does a lot of debt and equity financing. Now, this is no doubt the deal that has been finalized in the Middle East, which is not a big surprise because a lot of financing comes out of this region. And we know Aptera have been there for the past few days. Now, Aptera have already come out and said that they won't be answering any more questions on the financing deal until the upcoming investor webinar, which is fair enough, but it does leave the situation open to a lot of speculation. So what do we know for certain? Well, we know that US Capital takes care of companies of all different shapes and sizes and seems to deal with loans anywhere from 5 million to 500 million, depending on the situation and the company involved. Now, what they seem to do, or what Chris Anthony seems to hint at in the Aptera video, is that US Capital will be collecting the investors, and presumably they have a very good network of investors that they have built up over the years. So we don't know if it's purely debt or if it's an equity-based deal where Aptera have to give up some control of the company. Most people seem to be assuming that is some kind of hybrid deal. That would make some kind of sense. Aptera, with its history, let's say, is reluctant to give up too much control to an outside influence, and understandably so. But they also don't have that many assets to be able to just take out a massive loan directly. They do have a massive backorder of around 45 to 47,000 vehicles. Now that shows potential, but that's technically not an asset. So it would be really nice to get some more details onto how this is structured. Have they given away a lot more shares? I'm sure a lot of the biggest investors will be wanting some very specific answers to that question. It's very easy for Aptera to create new shares, but at the same time, they don't want to really dilute the value of the shares too much. And for Chris Anthony and Steve Fambro, let's not forget that the IPO is going to be the biggest payday they will ever have. And this can get quite complicated quite quickly, because if they create too many new shares, they still need to maintain control, which means they need to issue themselves new shares in order to maintain a majority stake in the company, thus diluting the price of the shares even further. So they would prefer, I think, to take on more debt financing than equity financing if possible. So it's kind of a catch-22 situation. All investors need Aptera to make it to production, but in order to do that, they might have to reduce the overall share price. So what else do we know from Aptera? Well, we know they need about 35 million just to make it to production, and we know they need about another 30 million for the soft tooling to finish off creating all the parts for the Aptera. So that brings us to about 65 million that they need in funding, which is actually quite a small amount, but that's the bare minimum that they need. So it's fairly safe to assume that they're going to go north of 75 million, probably closer to 100 million if they can get it. Obviously, they don't want to take on too much debt, but they do want to be certain that they're going to hit production, and that will make a massive difference to the success of the IPO and how much money they can raise. If you take a look at two recent car manufacturer IPOs, Sono Motors and Rivian, there is a very clear difference between the success of those two companies. Rivian had an existing vehicle, Sono Motors did not. The value of Sono Motors share still shot up to about $24, but then rapidly declined. Rivian, on the other hand, closed at over $100 per share. So that is why Aptera are doing it this way, and it is a very wise strategy. Other than that, we just don't know anything for certain. We're going to have to wait till the webinar to see what the situation is. Obviously, if you do want to invest in Aptera, now might be the last chance before the IPO. In the short term, it is going to create a bit more of a rush on the current funding round. That will in turn release more funding from the grants and loans that they've been given in the past. So in any case, in the short term, it's very good news. In the long term, I'm hopeful it's great news. I haven't opened the champagne just yet, but I am putting it in the fridge to cool. Let's put it that way. That's it for this video, guys. I hope you're all well and as optimistic as I am. Fingers crossed, and a round of applause for the guys of Aptera. I'll see you next time.